Emily stood on the brink of a revelation that could reshape her view of herself and the world around her. She had always believed that to capture a man's heart, she needed to be flawless, meeting society's beauty standards, anticipating others' expectations, and molding herself to their desires. But a life spent chasing this ideal left her with a hollow ache, as if she had lost something vital, yet couldn't pinpoint what it was. She sought answers in magazines, friends' advice, and new looks, but these offered only fleeting relief. Emily didn't realize that the secret to allure she so desperately craved lay not in outward appearances, but in the depths of her own soul. This text became her guide, promising to unveil what truly makes a mature man not just notice a woman, but be drawn to her with his whole being, like a ship seeking a lighthouse in a stormy sea. It wasn't about manipulation or tricks, but about a near magical strength that resides in every woman, though it's easily drowned out in the race for approval. Like many, Emily doubted this path was within her reach. She felt far from the unforgettable woman she aspired to be, but that very doubt marked her first step toward self-awareness. Her journey began in her youth when, brimming with hope, she entered relationships believing love was a reward for effort. She strove to be perfect, choosing her words carefully, hiding her flaws, aiming to appear impeccable. But each time a connection crumbled, she blamed herself, convinced she wasn't pretty, smart, or engaging enough. Emily didn't know that a mature man, James, whom she would meet later, sought not perfection, but authenticity, the spark that ignites when a woman lives in harmony with her soul. Carl Jung, whose ideas underpin this journey, said, "We love not the person, but what they awaken in us." To James, Emily became more than a woman. She was a reflection of his own hidden yearnings for wholeness and a meaningful life. But in those early years, Emily didn't grasp this. She sought love externally, unaware that her true power lay within. This text promised Emily and all who walked her path to reveal the subtle qualities a mature man senses instinctively. These weren't traits one could master overnight or mimic from glossy pages. They were deeper, tied to the soul, how a woman carries herself, embraces her true self, and allows herself to be imperfect yet real. Emily sensed these qualities: authenticity, emotional clarity, self-reliance, resilience to criticism, and a purpose-driven life were close but still out of reach. She feared she fell short of these ideals, that her life, riddled with mistakes and doubts, made her unworthy of such magnetism. Yet the text gently reassured her, "There's no need to fear if you're not where you want to be." Life had shaped Emily into who she was, scars and all, but every small step could lead her toward the woman she dreamed of becoming. Emily recalled moments when men looked at her with admiration, but she didn't understand why. She chalked it up to good makeup or mere chance, missing how her natural energy, spontaneous smiles, and sincerity already worked like a charm. She didn't see that a mature man like James saw beyond surface beauty, something greater, an echo of his own soul, a part he hadn't fully explored. Jung called this the anima, the inner feminine energy in every man seeking embodiment in the world. When Emily was herself, free from trying to please or conform, she became that embodiment, stirring in James a desire not just to be near her, but to grow, to become better, to discover new horizons. This text was more than advice. It was an invitation to a journey. Emily had to learn how her authenticity could be her superpower, how her openness could foster trust, how her independence could inspire rather than intimidate.
She needed to realize that a mature man doesn't seek a woman who guesses his wishes or loses herself in him. He seeks one whose energy resonates with his soul, whose presence makes him feel alive. Emily knew this journey wouldn't be easy. She had to let go of old habits, stop fearing being too much or not enough, and learn to trust herself. But the promise was enticing, to become someone unforgettable, not because she tried, but because she was herself. Emily's life, like many women's, was filled with moments when she felt invisible or undervalued. But this text reminded her that every step, every choice toward authenticity was a step toward healing. She could mourn not yet having this inner strength, but that was okay. Life had shaped her with all her doubts and missteps, but she could start making small efforts today. Emily imagined James, a mature man with a thoughtful gaze and quiet confidence, seeing her not as an object of admiration but as an equal, a woman who inspired him to be better. She wanted to become that woman, not for him, but for herself. This text promised to show her the way, through stories, examples, and lessons to unlock her true magnetism. Emily felt she was on the cusp of something greater than finding love. It was a journey to herself, to a version unafraid to be seen, who wore her scars as badges of strength. She didn't know how long it would take, but she knew it began with one choice: to embrace herself. The text urged her to keep reading, to discover how her energy, truth, and uniqueness could make her unforgettable. It promised that through her story and others' experiences, she'd find the answers she'd sought her whole life. Taking a deep breath, Emily took her first step, ready to learn what makes a woman a magnet for a mature man, not just in James's eyes, but in her own. Emily stood in an art gallery, surrounded by paintings and soft lighting, when her eyes met James's. She didn't know this moment would be pivotal, but she felt something stir within her. In her youth, Emily was different. She aimed to please, adapted to others' expectations, and hid her true feelings, fearing she was too loud, too odd, too herself. Her appeal back then relied on externals, carefully chosen outfits, practiced gestures, and words she thought men wanted to hear. But these efforts yielded only fleeting attention, followed by emptiness. The men she met soon lost interest, and Emily blamed herself, believing she lacked beauty, wit, or charm. She didn't realize that a mature man like James sought not perfection, but authenticity, the spark that flares when a woman lives true to her soul. This chapter of her life taught her authenticity, not flawlessness, was the key to a mature man's heart. In those early years, Emily lost herself in relationships, like water taking the shape of someone else's container. She tried to be what she thought others wanted. With one man, she was soft and submissive. With another, bold and spirited. But none of these masks were her. She feared revealing her true thoughts, fears or dreams, thinking they'd make her vulnerable. When she met someone like James, her younger self tried to guess his desires, molding herself to his mood. But those connections faded quickly. Men sensed the inauthenticity even if they couldn't name it. Emily didn't see that her efforts to be right robbed her of the depth that could touch their souls. Carl Jung, whose ideas later helped her understand herself, said we love not the person, but what they stir in us. The immature Emily sparked only shallow interest because she lacked authenticity, the energy that makes a woman unforgettable. James, a man with a thoughtful gaze and quiet confidence, was different. He didn't want a woman who played a role or fit a mold. He sought someone whose energy resonated with his inner world, someone unafraid to be herself. When Emily first met him, she still carried traces of her old habits. She tried to impress him with clever remarks, watched her every move, and worried about saying the wrong thing. But James noticed not her efforts, but the moments she let her guard down, her genuine laugh, the unfiltered story from her childhood, the way her eyes lit up at a painting. Those rare, fleeting glimpses of authenticity touched something in his soul. Jung called this the anima, the inner feminine energy in every man, seeking a real-world reflection. Emily, without realizing it, became that reflection when she was true to herself, awakening in James not just interest but a deep sense that with her he could be himself, free of masks or roles. But in those early encounters, Emily didn't trust herself. She feared her true self, her doubts, quirks, vulnerabilities would push him away. She didn't know that this very truth made her magnetic. When she aimed for perfection, she disconnected from herself, and James sensed the distance, though he couldn't explain it. Her masks built a wall that kept him from seeing her soul. Later, after heartbreak and reflection, Emily began her journey to authenticity. Tired of guessing others' expectations, she decided to live for herself. It wasn't easy. She faced her fears, learned to say no without apology, and embraced her imperfections as part of her story. She started asking herself, what do I want? What brings me joy? These questions led her to photography, where she found delight in capturing the world through her unique lens. When she met James again years later, he saw the change. Emily no longer tried to be right. She spoke her mind, moved with ease, unconcerned by others' opinions, and her energy drew him in like a magnet. James couldn't look away, not because she was more beautiful, but because she radiated an inner light. Emily learned to show her feelings, even when they left her open to hurt. She stopped fearing to admit she needed time alone or that a new venture scared her. This openness didn't repel James. It drew him closer, as he saw not just a woman, but a mirror reflecting his own hidden desires for wholeness. Jung said, authenticity is the path to individuation, to becoming oneself, and Emily, unknowingly, became James's guide on that path. Her truth let him drop his own masks, to be not a hero or protector, but simply human. When she shared her dreams or doubts, he felt no pressure to meet her expectations, only freedom to be himself. That's what made her unforgettable. Not her looks, but her ability to be real, vibrant, full of contradictions, yet true to herself. This lesson of authenticity transformed Emily's life. She realized a mature man like James doesn't seek a woman who anticipates his desires or loses herself in him. He seeks one whose energy aligns with his soul, whose presence makes him feel alive. Emily stopped fearing being too much, too loud, too emotional, too imperfect. She saw her uniqueness as a strength, not a flaw. The more she embraced herself, the more James was drawn to her, not because she tried to win him over, but because her truth made him want to be near. This text promised Emily and all who followed her path that authenticity isn't a weakness, but a superpower that makes a woman a magnet for a mature man. Taking a deep breath, Emily took another step, ready to discover how her truth could change everything. Stay with us, and you'll learn how your authenticity can become your greatest strength. Emily sat in a cafe, staring out at the drizzling rain, her mind drifting to past relationships that left her heart scarred with disappointment. As a young woman, she believed love was a game of subtlety, where a man should sense her feelings as if reading her mind. She stayed silent when hurt, expecting her partner to notice her pain or hid her desires, fearing she'd seem too demanding. But each time she chose silence, her connections grew fragile, like glass ready to shatter at the slightest misunderstanding. Emily didn't know then that a mature man like James, whom she later reconnected with at the gallery event, valued not mystery, but emotional clarity. He sought a woman who could openly share her feelings, creating a space of trust where guessing wasn't needed, and he could be himself. This lesson was a turning point for Emily. Emotional openness, not cryptic hints, made a woman magnetic to a mature man. In her immature years, Emily built relationships on assumptions and unspoken expectations. She recalled a time when, upset by a partner's lack of attention, she withdrew, refusing to explain her unease. She hoped he'd notice her distance, ask what was wrong, and magically fix it. Instead, he grew more distant, and their bond faded in tense silence. Emily blamed him, thinking he didn't try hard enough, but the truth was, her silence erected a barrier he couldn't cross. She didn't see that her reticence, her belief that he should know, robbed him of a chance to connect. Carl Jung, whose ideas later helped Emily understand her missteps, said true intimacy arises where there's room for genuine exchange, where feelings are shared, not concealed. The immature Emily, by hiding her emotions, kept her partners from seeing her true self, and their interest remained skin-deep. When Emily met James, she still carried her habit of holding back. On their first date, when he forgot her request to call, she felt a sting of hurt, but instead of retreating as she once would, chose a new approach. Recalling how her silence had unraveled past relationships, she took a risk she found daunting: honesty. Without accusing or manipulating, she shared that she valued his attention. To her surprise, James didn't pull away but softened, his eyes showing relief. He didn't want to guess her thoughts. He wanted to know what she felt so he could respond in kind. This moment was a revelation for Emily. Her openness didn't weaken her, but showcased strength, building a bridge between their hearts.
Emily's emotional clarity grew daily. She learned to express her feelings without fear of being misunderstood. When she felt joy, she shared it, and her enthusiasm was contagious to James. When something troubled her, she didn't mask it with a smile, but calmly explained her concerns. This honesty wasn't a demand or control tactic, it was an act of trust, an invitation to true closeness. James, a mature man, valued this more than any enigma. He saw in Emily not just a woman, but a partner with whom he could build a relationship free of guesswork. Jung said love is not only passion, but a process of individuation, where two people help each other grow. By opening her heart, Emily gave James space to be vulnerable, to share his fears and dreams without fear of judgment. This path to emotional clarity wasn't easy for Emily. She had to overcome her fear of rejection, the worry that her honesty would make her too much. She recalled her youth when she avoided voicing her needs, thinking it would push men away. But with James, she saw her openness drew him closer. He didn't want a woman who always agreed or hid her feelings for peace. He wanted one whose truth created a space where he could be real. Emily learned not only to share her emotions, but to listen to his without judging or trying to fix him. Her ability to be open without pressure or expectations made her not just attractive, but essential to James. She became a mirror reflecting not only herself, but his aspirations, vulnerabilities, and humanity. Emily realized emotional clarity wasn't weakness, but a strength that fosters trust. She no longer expected James to read her mind and didn't fear that her honesty would make her less desirable. Instead, her willingness to share her feelings, even imperfectly, made her vibrant, real, and approachable. James was drawn to her not because she was flawless, but because her truth allowed him to be himself. This text promised Emily and all who followed her path that openness isn't a risk, but the key to deep connection. Emily took another step, feeling her soul lighten, her energy beginning to resonate with the world. You've come far. Stay with us to learn how your openness can change everything. Emily sat at her desk in her cozy apartment, sifting through old photos where she was younger, full of hope but tethered to others' approval. In those days, she sought love to fill an inner void, dreaming of a man who'd solve her problems, financial, emotional, existential, and saw each partner as a savior offering stability. But those relationships always ended in disillusionment. Men either pulled away, sensing her reliance, or she lost herself, merging into their worlds. Emily didn't know then that a mature man like James, whom she met years later, sought not a damsel in need, but an equal partner whose inner strength and self-reliance inspired him. This lesson was profound. Self-reliance, the ability to stand on her own, made a woman magnetic to a mature man because she chose love from freedom, not necessity. In her youth, Emily lacked independence. She sought in men not just love, but a crutch to replace her own confidence. She recalled one relationship where she quit her job to spend more time with a partner, hoping he'd provide for her. In another, she hid her financial struggles, fearing she'd seem weak, yet expected him to shoulder her burdens. These expectations bred tension. Men felt like caretakers, not partners, and their interest in Emily waned. She didn't see that her dependence, her urge to merge with another, stripped her of the strength that could make her captivating. Carl Jung, whose ideas later reshaped her perspective, said, "True connection exists only between two whole individuals who seek not rescue, but shared fullness." The immature Emily, clinging to men, lost herself, and her relationships were as fragile as a house of cards. When Emily met James, traces of this dependence lingered. On their first date, she caught herself wanting to seem easygoing, hiding her fear that she couldn't cope without his support. But life had already begun teaching her otherwise. After a painful breakup, she vowed to stop waiting for a savior. She built her life anew, landed a job that brought both income and joy, started yoga to tame her inner turmoil, and learned to manage her finances. These steps were tough. She faced loneliness, fear of failure, and self-doubt. But with each decision, each day she paid her bills or carved out time for her passions, Emily felt a strength growing within her, one no one could take away. When she reconnected with James years later, he noticed the shift. Emily no longer sought a rescuer. She shared stories of her work, how she fixed a leaky faucet herself, and how solo travels broadened her perspective. James watched her with admiration, not because she was detached, but because her self-reliance radiated warmth and confidence. He saw a woman who chose herself, yet remained open to love. This openness wasn't neediness, it was a gift from the fullness of her heart. Jung said love is an exchange of energies between whole souls, and Emily, now self-reliant, became an equal partner to James, one he could build a future with, unafraid she'd lose herself in him. Emily's self-reliance shone not only in financial independence, but in emotional resilience. She found joy in her own achievements, whether finishing a tough project or savoring a quiet evening with a book. She stopped expecting a man to fill her emptiness, realizing it wasn't a flaw, but a space for growth. James sensed this, seeing a woman who didn't cling to him out of fear, but chose to be with him because it felt right. This freedom made her magnetic. She didn't need him to be her savior, but invited him to be her companion. She became James's inspiration, spurring him to seek his own wholeness. This path to self-reliance was grueling. Emily had to rethink her fears, trust herself when life felt unsteady. She recalled moments when she was tempted to fall back, to call an ex for comfort, but each time she chose herself, she grew stronger. She learned a mature man didn't want a dependent partner, but one whose strength allowed her to thrive beside him freely. This text promised Emily and all who followed that self-reliance isn't isolation, but a power that draws those ready for real intimacy. Emily pressed forward, her soul growing steadier, her energy pulling in those open to true connection. Stay with us, and you'll discover how your strength attracts those who cherish it. Emily stood amid the buzz of a lively party, surrounded by laughter and chatter, when a stray comment caught her ear. A guest glanced at her dress and quipped it was too plain for the occasion. In her youth, such a remark would have unraveled her. She'd have flushed, withdrawn, or scrambled to justify herself, her confidence crumbling under the weight of someone's opinion. But now, mature and grounded, Emily simply smiled, shrugged, and carried on the conversation as if nothing had happened. Her calm wasn't a facade, but an inner strength honed through years of self-work. She didn't take criticism to heart, refusing to let others' words define her worth. This resilience, this quiet composure, made her magnetic to a mature man like James, who watched her that night. He saw not just a woman, but a beacon, unwavering even when the world tried to rattle her. This chapter of her life taught her calm and resilience to criticism weren't weaknesses, but strengths that made a woman unforgettable. In her immature days, Emily was vulnerable to others' judgments. She recalled how, as a young woman, every sidelong glance or casual remark felt like a blow to her self esteem. If a friend praised someone else's style, Emily compared herself and felt lacking. If a coworker pointed out a mistake, she shut down, terrified of being seen as incompetent. This reliance on external validation left her fragile, constantly seeking affirmation in others' words or looks. In relationships, it was worse. She feared her partner would reject her if she didn't meet his expectations. Once, dating a man, she agonized over his comments about her tastes or speech, spending hours wondering how to be better. But her anxiety only widened the gap. Men sensed her insecurity, and their interest faded as she lacked the inner anchor to weather external pressures. Carl Jung, whose ideas later guided Emily's transformation, taught her that true strength comes from embracing oneself, shadows included. She realized her sensitivity to criticism reflected her fear of not being enough. She began addressing this, learning to separate others' words from her inner truth. It was a tough journey. She faced moments where she wanted to hide or snap back at unfair remarks. Instead, she practiced listening without internalizing. She asked herself, why does this sting? What am I scared of losing? These reflections showed her worth wasn't tied to others' opinions, but glowed within her, unshakable. When she reconnected with James, her calm was striking. At that party, when the snide comment about her dress landed, James watched her stay unruffled. Her smile, her ease, her ability to move past it without a hint of resentment impressed him. He saw a woman who didn't need others' approval to feel complete. This calm wasn't aloofness, but a deep assurance that let her be herself, untouched by critics. James, a mature man, valued this resilience as it offered a space where he too could escape pressure. He didn't want a woman who reacted to every slight. He sought one whose strength held her steady, like a rock in a turbulent sea. Emily learned to treat criticism as feedback, not an attack. When a colleague noted a mistake, she thanked them and fixed it, refusing to let it dent her confidence. When a friend critiqued her lifestyle, Emily listened but didn't let it sway her choices. This poise made her magnetic. It showed she knew herself and wouldn't let the world dim her light. James saw a partner who could face life's storms without losing herself. Jung said true connection requires accepting one's shadow for inner peace. Emily, by mastering criticism, became James's mirror, reflecting his own potential for authenticity. This journey to resilience was arduous. Emily battled years of self-criticism and learned to view flaws as part of her uniqueness. She recalled times she wanted to retort sharply or hide from judgment, but choosing calm each time made her stronger. She understood a mature man didn't seek a woman shaken by criticism, but one whose resilience steadied him. This text promised Emily that calm isn't indifference, it's a power that makes a woman unforgettable. Emily moved forward, feeling grounded, her energy drawing those who valued depth. You're nearly there. Stay to learn how your calm makes you unforgettable. Emily sat on her balcony, gazing at the city's twinkling lights, reflecting on her journey. She'd navigated years of doubt, heartbreak, and growth to become the woman she was now, one whose inner strength and authenticity commanded not just attention, but profound respect. Her encounters with James, a mature man whose thoughtful presence stood apart from the fleeting interest of her youth, showed her what makes a woman truly unforgettable. This text led Emily to the pinnacle of her journey, the realization of 5 key qualities that made her magnetic to a mature man. These qualities, authenticity, emotional clarity, self-reliance, resilience to criticism, and a purpose-driven life, weren't mere traits but beacons illuminating her path, mirrored in James's eyes. This chapter was Emily's moment of truth, revealing how her transformation made her not only captivating but whole. Authenticity. This was Emily's cornerstone. In youth, she hid her true self, fearing she was too much or not enough. She adapted to others, losing herself, and men drifted away, sensing her lack of depth. With James, her sincerity, her unguarded laugh, honest stories, even her vulnerabilities, earned his respect. He saw not a facade, but a woman living her truth. Carl Jung said authenticity is the path to individuation, and Emily, being herself, became a mirror for James's own wholeness for wholeness. Her effortless truth made her unforgettable. Emotional clarity. This reshaped Emily's world. Her younger self expected men to guess her feelings, but silence built walls. When she shared her joys, fears, and needs with James, he felt at ease. She recalled admitting her anxiety about a new project, and his warmth grew, her honesty letting him open up. Her openness made her a partner James could grow with, free of judgment. Self reliance. Earned through struggle. This defined Emily. She once sought rescuers, creating strain as men felt burden. But by building her career and finding joy alone, she became James's equal. Her tales of solo adventures lit his admiration. Her independence inspired him, rooted in choice, not need. She was his companion, not a weight, resilience to criticism. This made Emily unshakable. She once flinched at every jab but learned to let criticism slide, her worth intact. At a party, when her dress was mocked, Emily's calm smile captivated James. Her poise showed a confidence that steadied him, making her a beacon in his eyes. Purpose driven life. This gave Emily direction. Her youthful chase for fleeting thrills left her anxious, but finding meaning in her photography and volunteering changed her. Sharing her projects with James, she saw his eyes glow. He saw not just a woman, but inspiration. Her purpose made her magnetic, living for her soul's call. These qualities, authenticity, emotional clarity, self reliance, resilience, and purpose, shaped Emily into a radiant force. James was drawn not by passion, but by deep respect, seeing a partner who helped him grow. This text showed Emily her allure lay in who she became for herself. Now you hold the key to magnetism, use it. Now you know the qualities that make a woman magnetic to a mature man: authenticity, emotional clarity, self reliance, resilience, and purpose. Don't be discouraged if you feel far from them now. Life has shaped you as you are, but every small effort moves you toward the woman you can be. It's okay to grieve where you stand today. Your journey is just beginning. Through Emily's story, you've seen an insecure girl transform into a woman radiating strength and light. These qualities aren't gifts, they're choices you can make today. Share your story in the comments. What resonated? Where are you on this path? Your voice could inspire others. Follow along to continue this journey to your true magnetism. And remember, you're already one step closer to being unforgettable.